Look, it's my old school Sunnyside Elementary, lots of fond memories here. I definitely peaked grade 4 to 8, it was all downhill from there. But school taught me some very important things, most importantly, how to count up to 3. Because in the professional photographic world, generally we'll use 3 professional zooms that'll give you an f2.8 aperture. And in Tamron's case, you would have the 70 to 180 f2.8, the 28 to 75 f2.8, and then typically it was the 17 to 28, but now we've got a new one. This is the 3rd lens in the series now, the 16 to 30 f2.8 version 2. Now school did teach me that for there to be a version 2, there should be a version 1, but I don't recall there being a 16 to 30 2.8 version 1. That's an interesting mystery, but is this lens worthwhile? I'm going to teach you all about it. School is in session. I'm Chris Niccolls, and this is PetaPixel. So on my hunt to try to find Tamron 16 to 30 f2.8 version 1, I went to kh.com and used their fantastic search engine to kind of tour around the history of Tamron lenses. And they found a lot there. There's a lot of stock. They've got the 15 to 30 f2.8, which was a DSLR lens. They had the 17 to 35 2.8, also DSLR. They even had the Tamron 17 to 28 f2.8, which was really the first version for the mirrorless trifecta of lenses. So I guess we're going to go with that as their first one, but it was really easy to find stock on kh.com. I could see all of the information for what condition it was in, whether it was a bargain, whether it was, in really good shape, mint shape, lots of options there, and they had a ton of stock. So whether you're in need of some good quality used gear, or maybe you're just trying to do research and discover there's actually a first version of 16 to 30, kh.com has you covered, and you can always contact them. Their experts are always there to help you if you have further questions. So our mystery is solved. I really appreciate it. Big thanks to kh.com for helping me solve the mystery and sponsoring this episode. That is why they're PetaPixel's preferred pre-owned camera gear partner. Now, before we go further, I just want to point out, Jordan and I are testing the exact same lens today because I have the 16 to 30 f2.8 for Sony E mount, and he has the 16 to 30 f2.8 for Nikon Z mount. He's shooting on his Z8 right now, so this will give you a good idea of what this lens does as far as video capabilities go. And this is important to point out because, first off, Sony, they'll let anybody make lenses for their mount. I mean, they don't care. But Nikon's a little bit trickier. They don't allow Sigma, or Sigma doesn't allow them, or who knows. That's a mystery for another episode. But you cannot get Sigma full frame glass for Nikon Z mount, which means that Tamron becomes the viable third-party option in full frame for Nikon Z mount. And of course, we do also know that Tamron and Nikon have a partnership, and Tamron makes a lot of Nikon branded lenses for their system. But if you want good third-party glass, Tamron's a fantastic option when it comes to that. Okay, so yes, the 16 to 30 f2.8 Tamron considers the second version the successor to their first gen 17 to 28 f2.8, a lens which we actually never got around to reviewing, unfortunately, but it is highly regarded. Everybody who's played with it says it's a very good lens across the board, and it's also a very compact lens. This is a hallmark of Tamron professional glass. So that 17 to 28 f2.8 was 420 grams, and this new lens is 440, very similar in size and weight. Another hallmark here that Tamron really likes to stick to is this 67mm filter thread in the front. And this is nice because if I then use the 28 to 75 2.8 or the 70 to 180 f2.8, I can freely swap filters without having to use any stepping rings. Now, the 16 to 30 gives me a very basic lens hood. I mean, it's kind of plasticky, it's just a bayonet mount, but it does the trick. But as like all Tamron G2 lenses, we got a decent manual focus ring, we got a nice zoom ring, everything feels pretty tight and looks smooth. We do get a customizable button on here, but no autofocus, manual focus, selector switch. And as light and compact as these lenses are, they are fully weather sealed, and we have found them to be very well sealed and very reliable over time. And then here you'll see the USB-C port. Here we can update firmware. We can also plug this in and use the fantastic Tamron Lens app. This lets us customize a lot of stuff like focus direction, linear focus pull distance. I mean, it's really nice. You can customize and set up the lens using their app. So, everybody always thinks I take all these puddle shots. I barely ever take puddle shots, right, Jordan? Like, how often do I actually take a puddle shot? But it's not all that I do. So you may have noticed I've done quite a few close-up shots in the montage, and that's because I like to do that whole thing with a wide angle where you get close to a subject, it looks large in the frame and it pushes the background far away in the background. It's a cool shot, but the Tamron 16-30 G2 is not a great close-up lens insofar as it doesn't have a great magnification ratio. We're getting just over 1:5 life-size reproduction. Now, if you compare that to something like the Nikkor 14-24, it's way better. That's like 1:7 almost. But the Sony G Master 16-35 does get us 1:3 life-size reproduction, which is substantially closer. So one major upgrade over the older 17-28 is when it comes to autofocusing performance. I mean, Tamrons have always worked really well with the tracking systems in Sony and Nikon's. That's not the issue, but the older lens, it did have a slow stepping motor, and you did notice it sometimes. It's not critical for a wide angle, but now we have a voice coil motor. This brings this in line with the more modern 28-75 f2.8 G2 and the 70-180 G2, and it's really quick. As you can see here, just super snappy. I mean, no issues as far as street shooting, shooting up close. I mean, if you want to do things like maybe skateboarding or extreme sports where you're getting really close to subjects, I'm confident this is going to handle it. Okay, let's talk about bokeh on this lens. So this is an ultra wide, but it does have that f2.8 aperture. You can get fairly shallow depth of field, especially when you go up close. But looking at the specular highlights here, you can see a little bit of cat's eye effect at 2.8, not bad. Goes away pretty quick, but they're pretty messy. I mean, you got fairly strong soap bubble effect here. You know, there's some onion rings and stuff going on inside. And so that's not normally what we want to look for clean specular highlights. But because this is an ultra wide lens, the backgrounds, they still tend to look fairly soft. There is a touch of harshness here. I mean, it's not creamy smooth, but it's not bad either. And when you're getting close up and shooting things like this, you can see the bokeh has fairly soft transitions. Just again, a touch of harshness that I noticed, but overall not a bad result. I mean, again, this is not like a major super shallow depth of field lens like you would get with the 70-180. So we're on the Peace Bridge here, and yes, Calgary has a Calatrava designed bridge because we're a big damn deal. I mean, Calgary's a cosmopolitan city. It's fantastic. So of course we have a Calatrava, and this is a good place to test things like flare and Sunstars. So Tamron have always had good coatings. I could not really get this lens to flare very much at all. We're still retaining tons of contrast when shooting wide open at f2.8. I'm not really seeing any ghosting issues. Even stopping the lens down heavily, no ghosting issues really creep up. So that's a really positive result. And if you're gonna do the landscapes, you know, backlit scenes, sunsets, that kind of stuff, city lights, this is gonna take care of you, no problem. Sunstars, pretty average, nothing to really write home about, not great, but you know what? Nobody seems to care about Sunstars. I think I'm the only person that cares about Sunstars, and in my opinion, I guess just for myself, they're meh. Okay, let's talk about sharpness now on this lens, because this is an interesting story. So first off, if you're shooting at 16 millimeters, looking at our test charts here, centers are beautiful at f2.8. Tons of detail, lots of contrast. I notice only the slightest of improvement when I stop down to f5.6. And actually the corners are really impressive too, even wide open at f2.8. Great detail, not much vignetting. I was really impressed. Stopping down just makes it even slightly better, but I love the wide open performance at 16 millimeters. When we go to the 30 millimeter range, is a little bit of a different story. So as you can see here, when you shoot wide open at f2.8, you kind of get this dreamy, soft focus effect. I mean, a loss of contrast, details there, but there's like this double image, which just gives you this sort of glow to everything. There are some shots where I like that, but for most times, I'm not really happy with it. Now, luckily, it goes away pretty quick. I mean, here at f5.6, looks great. Tons of contrast, detail, no soft glow or blur. Corners as well at 30 millimeters are a little bit weak. f2.8, you can see soft there, and shooting, you know, even at f5.6, they get definitely better, but still not as good at the 16 millimeter range. So this is how I've then been shooting this lens. I mean, first off, a 16-30 like this, it's a nice general purpose wide angle. I like it for walking around. I like it for some street shooting as well, but I'm shying away from using the 30 millimeter quite a bit, or at least I'm shying away from shooting it wide open. I'm stopping down a lot to f4 at least, just to kind of get a nicer look to it. But for any landscape work where I'm shooting 28, 24, 20, 16 millimeters, wide open, no problem. I really dig it. I think it's giving me good performance. And if I'm stopping down, I mean, it's as good as you're going to want it to be.
All right, it's Jordan to talk about shooting video, which I had the pleasure of doing with the Tamron 16-30 for a full episode, and I'm using it right now. And the one drawback to this lens is, unfortunately, there's no lens-based stabilization like the older DSLR 15 to 30, but that was already missing from the previous 17 to 28 millimeter lens, and honestly, most of the time you're going to be using this on a mirrorless camera that has IBIS in it, or you can use it on a gimbal like I'm doing right now, where it's absolutely perfect because it is so compact and the weight barely shifts at all when you're zooming the lens. So how does it actually perform? Well, the big upgrade here, I'd say, is getting that linear motor in here, which is absolutely excellent for tracking autofocus, so long as your camera still does a good job of it. The other thing I really want to test is focus breathing, and this is where, when you rack the focus from minimum focus to infinity, how much does the field of view actually change? Because it can be quite distracting mid-take if you've got a lot of breathing in your lens. Well, at 16 millimeters, you can see here there's almost imperceptible breathing. The frame stays very firm. I would call this basically a perfect result. If you zoom things into 30 millimeters, you can see the field of view change very, very slightly, but I don't think this is going to be distracting if you're pulling focus from one subject to another. So this is a very good result, and this is an absolutely excellent video lens, especially for the price.
So I think this new Tamron 16 to 30 G2 does a really good job of fitting in with the 28 to 75 and the 70 to 180, and now we have an updated, modernized trifecta, holy trinity, whatever you want to call it, of professional zooms from Tamron. And you know, they're all compact, they're all strong, they're all weather sealed, good optically overall, and absolutely more affordable than what you would get out of the original manufacturer's glass. But the Tamron 16 to 30 does find itself with a fair amount of competition in the more affordable ultra-wide lenses, because a lot of the OEM manufacturers have started to cover this desire and this need for more affordable ultra-wides. So first off, you're looking at Sony E-mount, you've got the excellent Sony 16 to 25 millimeter f2.8. Limited focal range, absolutely, but we've tested the lens. It's very good wide open. It's a nice sharp lens with good optical characteristics. It is going to come just a little bit more expensive than the Tamron, but then you also have the very similarly priced Sigma 16 to 28 f2.8. So again, it's like a similar focal range, similar optical performance, and similar price. When it comes to Nikon Z-mount, things are a little bit more simple. I mean, competition-wise, you've got the Nikkor 14 to 24 f2.8, but that's in a whole other league and really intended for a slightly different kind of photography. Really, you've got the Nikkor 17 to 28 f2.8, which is just the Tamron 17 to 28 f2.8. So, you know, I would say in this regard, I would get the updated 16 to 30. You're getting more focal range in both the wide and the telephoto range, and it's just optically a faster focusing and better lens. So if you're looking for an affordable but effective ultra-wide lens that still gives you that fast f2.8 aperture, this Tamron G2 is absolutely worth a look. If you happen to already have the 28 to 75 and the 70 to 180, this makes perfect sense just to update and have a more modernized trifecta. But even if you don't have Tamron glass and you're just looking for a good general purpose lens that's reliable and has no nasty surprises other than 30 millimeters at f2.8, this is a really cool choice. Let us know what you think in the comments below. We always appreciate the feedback, because we always listen to that stuff and answer it on the PetaPixel podcast. You can listen to that on all your favorite podcasting apps, or you can just watch on this exact same channel, and then you can see us in our podcasting rooms. Otherwise, do consider getting yourself a PetaPixel.com membership. That helps us to support a lot of our documentaries and special projects. We always appreciate that support. You get discounts on the merch store. You can peruse PetaPixel.com ads free, and you can also see our sample galleries of JPEG and RAW files from the lenses that we review. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon with more on PetaPixel.